Hey guys, just thought I'd do a quick video while I'm riding to Tim Hortons to collect some donuts. A little bit about myself. I was raised in Calgary, went to the University of Calgary where I got a Bachelor's of Science, and went to medical school in Australia. My plan was to always come back and master family medicine in Calgary, hopefully, but in Canada in general. I applied for the first time in 2021 and was unsuccessful. So in the first round, I got one interview for Calgary, and in the second round, I got four interviews. And I think this is where I found out one of the biggest things that I could do to make myself a better candidate to at least get interviews, and that is to look over your paperwork. By this I mean look at your CV and look at your personal statements to make sure they are of top quality. I had multiple people help me, my brother's friends, current CMGs, other IMGs that I've matched previously, and had them look at my paperwork multiple times to make sure that they were the best they could be to make myself a good candidate, at least on paper. However, in both cases, I was unsuccessful after the interviews. Since 2021 to 2022, what I did was I did lots of clinical observerships. So in total, around 1,200 hours in clinical settings. So this means 5 to 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week, 8-hour days, to get as much experience in the Canadian system as I possibly could. Besides that, I joined AIMGA, so AIMGA, which I would highly recommend to anyone looking to match in the Canadian system. For $50, they offer a great service. They will review your CV multiple times, have multiple sessions with you. You should practice interviews and look at your other paperwork in general. So besides the clinical observerships, what else I did was I attended the PIPE conference, which is a conference that was held virtually this year. And that was something that I could put on my CV that I went to see. I did a virtual conference, which was specifically designed for family doctors in the Canadian context. I also became a part of the AIMGA health and wellness teams, which I think just made me realize what else I could do in the Canadian system to help my CV come along for the next year's match. But I think the biggest thing I did was I looked at my CV, I looked at my personal statements to make sure that they were the best they could be. So what I would recommend is you look at the previous year's program descriptions and write your letters based on those, because I found that there was very minimal change between the second iteration for 2021 and the first round for 2022. And I could, in most cases, use the same letters with minimal changes. So what I would change is what I've done since the last year, which was largely the clinical observerships. So once your paperwork is the best it can be, I think the second thing you need to focus on is interviews. So for me, in 2021, the second iteration, I had four interviews. So I knew that I could get some interviews in the upcoming years, but I knew that I really had to focus on the interviews in themselves. So since June 2021 to the first round of interviews in 2022, I practiced throughout the year. So even though I did not know if I would get an interview, I was actively practicing. So I used AIMGA very regularly to practice as much as I can with them, even before interview offers were offered. I also did practice with other services available online, for example, Astrof. This was another way to just get some practice in. Besides these services, I used friends, so current CMGs, current IMGs, and family doctors that I was shadowing to have regular feedback sessions. I also used my brother's friends, who were invaluable during this time, because they would have regular sessions with me so they could see if I was going in the right direction or regressing. So all of this paid off for me in 2022. Of the places I applied, I only did not get interviews at U of A, but I got every other interview where I had applied. So that was every province except for Quebec and BC. I got, and I think one of the biggest things that helped me during these interviews was that constant practice throughout the year. So what I would recommend is think about the common questions you are likely to get for the interviews you are applying for. For family medicine, I should have an answer for why family, worst thing, best thing, where do you see it going in the future? Um, Along with that, the common can med questions and the common questions that you can get based off previous years. For example, where a time when you were in a conflict, a time where you were unprofessional, a time when you showed good communication skills. So all of these, if you prepare them early, you will be ready for the real interview itself. Also, in saying for your interviews, what I recommend is really think about every scenario that they can possibly ask. For example, a time when you were in a conflict. So you should think about this before your interview so you can, one, describe what that conflict was, but also always have a clinical scenario in mind. So, for example, if they ask you, what does failure mean to you? You should be able to describe what a failure means to you, but also, I think at that point, give an example. And if you don't think about these scenarios before your interview, you will have difficulty answering it in a natural way. So, really spend the time from now until your interview in preparing the common questions and always thinking about what can they ask me and how will I answer that one question. So for me, I had a notebook where I wrote down every question I can think that they can ask me and had my scenario in mind, which I think really made it really easy for me to always have an answer for any question they could ask me. So I think I'll end my video there in terms of advice for the CARMS process. But if you have any questions, please leave them down in the description below, and I'll turn up the volume on the bike and enjoy the trip to Tim Hortons for some donuts. Thanks, guys.